Hello and welcome to Getting Started with Mendeley, and thank you for joining us on a Friday afternoon. Although at least we're not tearing you away from gorgeous weather like we had yesterday. My name is Chris Stacy Bates, and my two colleagues and I are all librarians here. I will be talking about how to import records into Mendeley and do some working with those. And introduce yourself.
Oh, and I'm Mike. And after Chris shows us how to get records into Mendeley, then I'm going to show you how to use Microsoft Word while you're writing papers, things like references.
I'm Jeff, and once these two are done, I'm going to show you some of the social networking aspect of Mendeley, which allows you to share stuff with other people through Mendeley, and also get notifications about papers and stuff that are added to Mendeley. So that's what I'm going to do.
Okay. If you have not been to a workshop in this room before, you might notice that we do not have any large screens, but the third monitor between the pairs of every lab computer will show what is on my instructor's screen. So that would be the one to follow along when I'm demonstrating how to do some things. So some information about kind of the basic idea of what Mendeley is. It's a cross-platform application for managing the references and documents that are useful to you in the literature review and citation management portion of your research. So it's designed for storing both citations and PDF files, and it makes it easy to insert and format citations, footnotes or endnotes, and resource lists into your papers. It also lets you share documents and discussions with groups of researchers and discover additional papers with search and sharing functions. It's available in desktop and web forms, and so we sent out some information about how to load those up. So if you're here with your own laptop and you've got Mendeley loaded, that's great. Go ahead and use your own computer. Otherwise, we do have all the necessary software loaded on the computers around the room, and we can also help you if you've got questions about how to load it once we go to the hands-on portion of things. You can also, there are some apps for Mendeley for mobile devices, but we'll concentrate on the kind of more full function versions for now, and especially desktop, which has slightly more functions than any other version. So though it is available both in a web and a desktop version, both of them are useful for organizing your references into folders. In both of them, you can save PDFs so that you can read them later and make annotations as well. There are a lot of similar functions in the menus of both, although one thing to look out for is that Mendeley isn't always totally consistent with what placement of a function between the web and the desktop version is, or even words the same function slightly differently between the two. So that's one of the ways where it's helpful to mostly use one versus the other, so you can be used to what's going on with those. There is a sync button in the desktop version to upload and download information with the web version and keep things up to date. And both versions let you see activity in your Mendeley groups, including shared documents with, for example, your research group. The big advantage to the web version is that you don't have to be at your own computer to be using it. You can just quickly access it through the site mendeley.com. The desktop version does require a pretty quick download onto your current computer, and you can still access the same account from a different computer. So if you don't have your own laptop here, you can play around with the desktop version, and as long as you hit that sync button before you log out today, all that information will be in the web version and can be transferred to desktop access on a different computer. Desktop just has a few more tools available for working with your citations and documents. Okay, so I mentioned that if you've got any questions about the download, we can do that once we move to the hands-on session. So basically, either one of the versions will work for collecting citations and PDF files. And I'll primarily be demonstrating with Mendeley Desktop for now, and let you experiment to see which one you like better. We've got some suggestions on the handouts on sort of little, here's a basic thing you might want to try doing for you to try and see how it goes. So Mendeley Desktop, so I've got a version of that logged into my own account here. And it lets you add PDFs and other references in several different ways. So one thing you can do is add PDFs that you have already got stored on your computer into this system so that the information about that is connected with the other information. So in the Mendeley Desktop version, the easiest place to do that is through the Add Folder link, assuming you've already got things saved in a specific folder. And it will find this computer's desktop. I set up the save, and I did not set up the import. All right, so if you know your file name anyway, you can select the entire folder that that's in. You can also add individual files. Okay, now it's going to let me find this the way I had this set up. So you can pick, so add files may find some additional folders than the add folder function may. So you can go in and select these. And open them. You can also take a look just at what you've recently added, which is convenient when you want to easily jump to the things that have just been added and check what the records look like. So in this case, I was working from a file with the PDF, so it does download the PDF here, and then it also extracts the citation information about this document to help track things, and the information in that part of what's saved is what will be used for generating citations to put into your papers. And when you open a PDF file, it sort of pops up a new tab within Desktop. So when you're done with that, you can just close it out, and then the main tab is the overall interface. So add folder imports the content in the desktop version, imports the contents of a folder, and then you can also, I believe it's use the edit version and create a new folder within the Mendeley file structure. So these things sound like they're similar, but they do two different things. And so I did make sure to include that on the handout to clarify which is which. So you can also add entries manually from this Add menu in Mendeley Desktop. So if you've got some non-electronic version of the data, or if you've just brought this up in some version that didn't want to import as smoothly, you can do copy pasting or typing things in directly. And one feature that's kind of nice on this manually enter the new document window is that it also offers you the option, if you just have a DOI, or an archive ID or a PubMed ID, but DOI is most commonly used and also most useful for lookup. Oh, and you have to actually click the little search button next to it to do the retrieval. So in that case, because someone else who's used Mendeley has already put in a reference to this particular paper in the system with the DOI, it's finding the rest of the information and automatically adding that in. The downside to this is that it did not add the PDF file as part of the information import process, but I could, it did give me the URL for that paper, so I can go to that. Download the PDF. And then I'm going to use another convenient function of Mendeley, which is that you can install an import to Mendeley web browser button. So I'm going to import this. Definitely want to download the PDF that's available. And so I'll just go ahead and save that. Then here in, I might need to sync it with the web version. Okay, so here I have basically two versions of this record. One is missing some details. One is missing the PDF. Luckily, one of the available it's a file. I can check for duplicates. And so it finds that I have more than one version here. And it's saying, OK, well, it's found the information about the PDF from one record. It's found the PDF itself from another record. Nothing is in conflict here, and I can merge those together. So then when I'm in my overall what's been added here, then I've got the icon indicating that the PDF file is there, but I've also got the more complete citation and meta information about the article as well. And you've got plenty of options for creating new folders, moving around your documents, deleting documents, and so forth. And then this sync button is key for keeping the web version updated as well. So along with being able to use this import to Mendeley button when you're in a page with a PDF, you can also use it in connection with a set of search results. So just kind of jumping ahead a little bit, I've gone into the database Scopus, and I've done a search here, and I'll pick out a record there, and without going to the PDF version, see what information I can load about it, and I can save that into Mendeley as well. And then also, I can, in many cases, use that button on a page of a database that's listing a number of records at the same time. So it's checking here. So in this case, it's found that there's a whole set of records that were loaded on this page, and I can go through and collect several of them at one time and save those. Save to Mendeley is also a function that will sometimes show up under export options when you've selected records within a journal database. So in this case, I can save to Mendeley. In the case of Elsevier, it wants you to add your Elsevier credentials, which for some reason is a separate login than the one used for Mendeley, although Mendeley is an Elsevier company product. But then once I've done that, import those, check my sync, and I've added a bunch of additional records. Depending on the source of the record and how you entered it, you may have more or less complete information. So, for example, if you're using a style guide that asks for you to include the full name of the authors, depending on the source, it might only import initials and family name, in which case you might have some additional filling in the gaps to do. Okay, I didn't end up with any additional duplicates here. And I'd say it's most likely that you'll need to kind of do some checking in the cases where you've got the PDF file up on your screen if you want to have the rest of the citation information in there. So it's often a good idea to do sort of a double save, one with the PDF itself, one with the description of the article or paper that's in the PDF, and then you can use that function that we saw to merge those records. So I think that covers most of the main basic points for adding things into Mendeley. So let's take about 15 minutes and look up your own topics and try doing your own saving. And the three of us will be around as you've got questions. And then we'll come back and Mike will demonstrate how to combine these as you're writing a paper and use the citations within a work.
Does everybody have several citations in their Mendeley account? Okay. So at this point, you have some citations, and you're going to want to use them, right? You don't just let them sit there in your account. So I'm going to really quickly here just give you a demonstration of how you would use your Mendeley account while you're writing a paper in Word. And then if you followed the sheets that we handed out, I give some suggestions on things to try then that we can help with. So let's see here. First, I'm going to log Chris out. So I'm in Microsoft Word, and let's say I'm starting to write my paper, right? My favorite sentence is, this is an important sentence, right? And then I want to cite that with one of the articles that I have in my Mendeley account. So this is really easy. So check this out. Up here, it says References. So I'm going to go to the References tab, and make sure the Mendeley Cite-O-Matic, it's a fun name, make sure that's installed, and don't confuse that with the one next to it, the Word one that says Citations and Bibliography. They look pretty similar, and I sometimes accidentally hit the wrong one, and it causes problems. But okay, so I got my sentence, and now I want to cite it. So I'm in the Mendeley Cite-O-Matic. I just hit Insert Citation, and right away pops up the nice little search bar, and that's going to search my Mendeley account, right? And it searches all the fields, so I'm just going to randomly hit a letter A. And you can see it searches, well, everything should be in there because at some point everything out of the letter A, all right? So let's say that's the citation I wanted. You just select it, and I hit OK, and it's going to create my citation, right? Sentence number 2 is also important. I'm just going to do it again. Insert a citation. I'm going to try the letter Z. Let's say that was the article I wanted. I hit OK. And there we go. I got 2 citations. OK, that's pretty easy. Then, since I'm at the end, oops, let's see. You always want to list your references, right? So all you have to do, right up here at the top, it says Insert Bibliography. You just select that, and it automatically puts it in there. OK? Now, any questions on that? Yeah?
Can you make 2 references? So if you have like
Ooh.
you and you have your research, do you have 2 separate ones?
Nope. No, you can't do that. Yep. All these programs have downsides. She wants to create 2 references lists in the same paper. What I would do, like if you're writing your thesis or dissertation, I would have 2 different documents, and then after you're all the way done, you could just merge them in a PDF or whatever. We should give that suggestion to Mendeley, because that would be really cool if you could do that. Any other questions? Yeah. You get what?
So, no, like sometimes they mention years when the article was.
I'll talk to you after.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll help you with
I
it.
couldn't get.
Okay, so now the default here is American Psychological Association. But let's say I want to submit to a different journal, right? Or a journal that's not using APA citation. As you can see, a lot of them are listed here. There's like 9 or 10. But if you go to More Styles down here, window pops up. And if you can see right here all the installed options. I can select any of these and change it. Let's try one of these quick, actually. Let's say I wanted to use IEEE. It's an engineering thing. I just select it, and you hit Use this style. And then when you go back here, you see it completely changed the citation style to IEEE. Okay? Let's say I want to change it again. I go to More Styles. Right here it says Get More Styles. You can start searching for the journal title. Most people are mimicking journals, and there's over 8,000 styles available. So let's say it's something genetics. So let's say I was doing behavior genetics was a journal I was publishing to. I would just select it, and I hit Install. Now I would have to go over here to this, back to the Installed tab. And here we have behavior genetics. I would hit Use this style, and I'm done. And there it changes it again to the new style. Okay? Something else you can also do. Let's say, so I write my whole paper, and I'm like, oh, that first important sentence, that was really important. I think I need to add more citations. You can actually click in there and hit Edit Citation. And let's say, because I'm adding another one, let's say this was the citation I wanted to add. Just hit it, hit OK. And there you go. I cited 2 people at once.
And it automatically changes your bibliography?
Yes. It automatically updates your bibliography as you go. Thanks for mentioning that. I forgot to. So in case that wasn't obvious, I usually don't write 3 important sentences. My limit's usually 2. But I'm going to try a third one here. Just to show you. And there the references list is updated with the one I just put in. So this is usually the reason that people use these programs, is so that when you're writing papers, it's really easy to write references. Any questions on any of that? Okay, well, in the handout we have suggestions, basically just going through what I just did to make sure you know how to do it and understand how that works while you're here. Or if you have unique situations with it. Yeah.
I think you've hit a good example of why you sometimes need to double check how the citation information is getting into Mendeley, because I notice in your references that the way that the first initial appears is different for the last
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, it is.
So probably it imported with slightly different treatment of the author field. You could go in and edit that manually.
Yeah, you could. And also, with this gentleman, I was talking in detail about it, but these things are all open source, okay? So there's like 15 different citation programs. Zotero and Mendeley each use the same source of citation styles, okay? So there are errors in there. Errors do happen, so always double check to make sure it's correct, okay? Unfortunately for agronomy people, that one's an absolute mess in their garbage right now. I've almost got them fixed, Glenn. But most journals are actually pretty accurate, but occasionally you'll find some errors. Well, that's it for me. So we'll give you like 10 or 15 minutes. Then Jeff will tell us about the social features. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move along. You can play along with this stuff. What I'm going to talk about now is some of the social aspects of Mendeley, which is one of the things that you get with Mendeley that you don't get with the other ones at this point. When you get it, and most of the social stuff comes from the web version only, so you need to be logged into that. At the very top, when you first log in, you'll see this menu along the top here that says Feed, Library, Suggest, Stats, Groups, Data, and Careers. If anybody wants a job at Mendeley, you can look at that. And you can also do a search, notifications, and then your profile stuff over here. And like if you click on your profile, which would be your name, and you can edit all this information. When you first put an account in, you want to fill this out as completely as possible if you want. Your research interests, you want to add stuff there. And this also has, I'm going to talk about groups in a minute. But the groups that you want, where'd my groups go? You can put your publications in here. So you get a list of publications, you can add those in there, and what Mendeley does is it keeps track of people that look at your publications. And they will send you this, you get an H index, hopefully yours is larger than my one. And the citations, people that cite one of your papers that you have in the Mendeley library, it will keep track of it in here. This is not the only place to go for your tenure and promotion decisions, but it is one place that you can do that, because the only way you get these citations is when people do it from Mendeley. So anyway, you can add your IDs, Orchid ID, Scopus, there's other ones out there. And this just keeps track of you as an author, so anytime that you write a paper and somebody references that paper, it's tied to that number, as opposed to somebody else. There's somebody else with my exact name that has some weird mathematical books and stuff that he writes that I don't even know what he's talking about. But anytime I do a search for my name, he always comes up first, because he's a very prolific author. So your research interests, you put these in here and you just say edit and you start typing stuff in that you're interested in. Keep them short, you'll have better luck. About this, it's just more things that you're interested in, things that you want to get information on. The reason you do that is you'll get this feed, and what the feed is it's news and publications that come from people that you're following, groups that you're members of, and I'll talk about groups in just a moment, and also those keywords. So as things come up, pop up, people add stuff, you'll get a notification on it that will show up in your email address, as long as you include that in your profile. Which you kind of have to, because you got to have an email address to sign up for it anyway. So anyway, The library, you know about the library. That's where all your documents go. What suggest is this is articles that get added into the library, the Mendeley library, not your library. And you'll get a notification of these that correspond to any of those tags or research interests or groups that you have. You'll get an email and it'll say, hey, these papers have been added recently, you might want to look at them. That's not really what it says, but basically that's what it is. And then you get a list of these, it's an email, and it just takes you to this spot. And if it's something that you want to save into your personal library, you just click on the save. You can look at the full text to find out whether it's worth doing that. And you get these on about a weekly basis, or whenever some new stuff gets added to your thing. The Stats tab, this is where the stats is fairly new, but it's based on your publications that you have in the Mendeley library that are listed in your profile. So as long as you have your publications listed in the profile and they're added and saved in the Mendeley library, anytime somebody looks at them or downloads them, you'll get a notification in your stats. Nothing's happened in mine this month, so we'll move along. Nobody's looked at my stuff. I've only got one paper in here, that's why. Mendeley, like most of the Elsevier products, focuses mostly on the sciences. So as long as you're in the sciences, you have a much better job. And if you have a paper in library science, like I do, they don't index that journal, so nobody looks for it in Mendeley. So that one never gets cited in here. It gets cited elsewhere. But anyway, so this gives you just some information and a real quick view of what's going on with your own papers that you have in there. Obviously, the more that you have in there, the more this is going to change. So, now, questions? Yes?
Mendeley wants everybody to use Mendeley.
Exactly.
They don't.
No, you don't understand. Mendeley is an Elsevier product, and Elsevier wants everybody to use their stuff, from the databases, from Scopus, to all the stuff that we buy, all the journals we buy and books, e-books through Science Direct, and they're like the Amazon of the data world. So yes, you're right. They want you to use it. And to be honest, they keep this one's free, so you can't argue with free. Well, some people can. The other thing over here is data. This is really new from Mendeley. They just started this, I believe, this last summer. And so a lot of you people are going to apply for grants, and you're going to have to archive your data somewhere to make it publicly available. Mendeley is one way you can do this. I'm not condoning it because it's new. I have no idea how it works. There's other places you can do it, and we've got a data librarian here in the library that can help you out with that. The one thing we don't know about this is what kind of rights you retain with your data once you put it in here. But it is fairly new, and it is there. It's a way to keep your data for NIH grants or stuff like that publicly available. There's other ways too, but that's just the Mendeley way. And then finally, the groups. There's three types of groups. There's public groups. And these groups, what they are, is just collections of people. You join a group, you create a group, and as you'll see in a minute, everybody creates the same groups. Rather than searching for a group, they all create one of their very own. And so there's lots of groups in Mendeley with one person, because nobody looks to join the group. They all want their own group. So anyway, what that is, it's a collection of people with the same research interests. So anytime, this also goes into your news feed. So anytime that somebody adds a paper to that particular group that you're a member of, you'll get notified that so-and-so did this in one of your groups, whatever. And those things show up in these kind of things. These are all the groups information over here under that little bell. So that's that notifications. So, as I said, there's three different types of groups. There's a public group. Anybody can join a public group. Anybody can look at a public group. You can look at it without joining it, and you can see everything that's in there. There's also invite-only groups, and when you create the groups, you determine how you want to restrict it, whether it's public, invite-only, or private groups. Invite-only groups are just like public groups, except the only way you can post stuff to it is if you send an email to the person that has created the group, and they will approve you, and then you can add documents into the library. Anybody can look at invite-only groups because all the information in there is publicly available. You just can't post stuff in it. And then the third type of group is a private group. And what that's designed for is small working groups. At this point, only about 5 people can be in a private group. And you can share papers. Any PDF that you have, you can put in a private group. There's no copyright restrictions or anything like that, because the only people that can see it are the ones that are in your private group, and since they're so small, nobody cares. Those are not publicly visible. I'm going to show you in a second how you can search for a group. You can look for a group, but you won't see any private groups in there. You'll only see public and invite-only groups is all you can find. So, go to groups. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on groups. If you go to the search button, you can search in Mendeley in the web for papers, for people, if you want to know if somebody's a member in Mendeley, one of your good friends. Support, this comes in real handy when you're doing something and it doesn't work. You can go to the support and do a search for it and find other people that have the same problems that you do with Mendeley, not personal problems. And then the groups, you can do a search for groups. In this case, we'll just do this one. We'll say data science, seems to work. I didn't like that one. I didn't type anything in. Search groups. And what this will show you is everything, every 3,107 groups based on data science. And you can see this one's a big one. It's got 75 members, and there's 21 papers that have been put in there. And if you look at the papers, it will give you a date as to when the papers were added. And why this is, what was important about this is as you look at the groups, you'll find out which ones are active. Because if nobody's posted anything in a group since 2013, who knows what happened to all these people. So you can see these are like 2012, 2009. It's not real active, even though there's a lot of stuff there. So any group that you look at here, it'll say join the group. If it says join the group, you can just click on that and join it. If it says ask to join the group, that's an invite-only group. And so what that does is it sends an email from your Mendeley profile to the owner of that group. And you say, I want to join your group because it looks really fascinating. And they'll approve you or not. You can still look at everything that's in those groups. You just can't post stuff. So that's the difference. And like I said, the private groups, they don't show up at all in here. You don't see them because they're private. You can't look at them. So, and that's groups. There's a little more information. And one thing I'll point out at the bottom, these help guides, video tutorials and stuff for Mendeley, they got some really good ones on, whoops, going too fast, tutorials. Where they go? They keep changing this stuff around. Help guides, web versions. Gives you all this stuff. There's all kinds of stuff to learn how to use Mendeley better. View all, there's the groups one. So there's stuff on the groups, and then you'll notice over here on the side, you gotta click on it again. The private groups has got its own little tab because it works totally different than everybody else. So, and then the citation editor is over here if you want to edit your own citations. The plugin stuff, so they've got help files for pretty much most of this stuff down at the bottom. And one thing I will say is when you're doing searches for stuff like this, if you're in your news feed and you're trying to scroll down to get to those help files at the end, you get a lot of stuff and it keeps going up like this because your news feed is so, until you get rid of this stuff, which I never do. So you can see I can't get to the bottom because it keeps jerking it back up. So there we are, we got there. So anyway, I usually, when I'm going to go to the bottom, I pick on one of these other tabs just because it's a lot shorter journey. So anyway, that's the social media stuff. That's the kind of stuff you need to play around with and see whether you like it or not. The most important part of that is it notifies you when new papers are added in topics and areas that you're either a member of a group or in your profile you put as one of the tags of your fields of interest. So, and we're done. Ready for questions if you have any. It's 4:29. It's not bad. Yeah. And as you're working through this, we do, one thing I want to show. I talked a little wrong. And if you would take a minute and just fill out that little sheet of paper where we get feedback on this, that's what we use to tailor our presentations. And if you do a search down here on the homepage for research and course guides, just type in Mendeley. There'll be a research guide here that gives you a lot of this same stuff. So just more stuff on learning how to use it. And that's it. Thanks for coming.